one-on-one more mentoring.
I'm ready because I'm thinking about the things that were my background.
Welcome to the event. I wish I was there, but I came in Detroit. I'm glad to be a part of the GOODMENGANG Foundation. I'm happy to be a part of it because it brings Black and Latino kids together to become better as men. Good luck. God bless. Take the pledge and join the gang. Thank you.
Does everybody know who that was? For those who didn't know who that was, he's part of the GOODMENGANG Foundation, and that happens to be my oldest son. He's a big part of what we're trying to do here. First of all, I just want to thank the people that made this possible, our sponsors. They are great. We had a vision, they believed in us, they believe what we're doing and what we're trying to do and what we are going to do, and they're supporting us to the fullest. The GOODMENGANG Foundation is something that I believe that we need. I have a strong team. They call me the CEO, but she's actually the CEO of this company. Her name is Rosa Williams, but we got to add Rodriguez. And then I have I love this guy. He's been supportive ever since. We've known each other since high school, played basketball together. His family is my family, vice versa. Omar Moses, he's right there. His sister, Malika, is also part of the GOODMENGANG Foundation, and she just came back from California, and she just jumped right in, and she's great with us. And like I said, we just want to make a big change in the young men of color. We want to help them grow as young men. We want them to be able to look at us and see that there are successful Black men out here that really care about you. We want you to be able to touch us. We want you to be able to come to us when you're having some type of any issues. We want to teach you life skills. We want to build something so that when you walk around, people know who you are. And that's what the GOODMENGANG is all about. I want you to know that if you're doing right, you don't have any consequences. You don't have to worry about anything. You can wake up in the morning and just feel good about yourself. So that's if you're doing right. And that's what I try to do every single day now. I've been exactly where you're at. I know everything in the media is driving you crazy. I'm sick to my stomach just watching the stuff that's going on, hearing about what's happening. And I went to the rally with my Cambridge alums. The kids that are at the Cambridge High School. And I was so proud of you all. What you did out there to me was amazing. And I know some of you guys are here right now. It was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing, and I was so happy to be a part of it. But then, when I got home, I was sad because I've only seen stuff like that on TV. I've never been in a protest. I never had to do a rally when I was growing up. And to think that you guys had to do this right now, it's sad. It really is. And I apologize to you because I say we're a whole. I apologize for you for dropping the ball. My generation should have done a lot more for you. And that's why we're here right now, because we're picking up that ball and we're going to help you get to where we need to go and not just leave it up to you guys. But I applaud you. I respect all you. I've never found myself to be nervous at any particular time, but for some reason, I've been getting real nervous on stage, but that's okay. I'm gonna give this over to my man, Marquis, who is gonna start this program, and I just want you all to get at least 3 things out of it. This is especially for you young men of color. You women also, don't get me wrong. But pay attention, focus, and let's have a good time. Thank you.
Hey guys, so my name is Marquis Cabrera. I'm actually biracial, and so this event to me means a lot. And I wanted to say thank you, Earl and Rosa, for getting me involved. I went to Northeastern undergrad, graduated, thankfully, and Rosa was my mentor growing up through the university and provided me some significant advice that ended up Can you guys hear me? Is that better? Cool. And so Rosa provided significant advice. So I just wanted to be here today. I'm going to be the master of ceremony. Just kind of guiding the event, making sure you guys are comfortable, having a good time. What I want you guys to do before the day is over is to make sure you introduce yourself to someone that you don't know. So if you want to take just 1 minute and say hello to the person next to you and grab their name. Just say hello to somebody next to you. So in my opinion, I think it's important, and we say in Spanish, to establish familia, make sure everybody's comfortable, everybody's in a safe place. So one of the things today is we want to make sure that the conversation had today is comfortable for everybody. We know what's going on with Ferguson, Eric Garner, and the media has been driving that attention, and we just want to have more of a, not necessarily a rally, but peaceful conversation. And to establish a community of colored folks and have our friends who are white and Asian and of other ethnicities and religions and have different beliefs come join us in this event. And so today we're going to have small groups. We're going to discuss interpersonal violence. We're going to have a large group session. We're going to have a comedian. Hopefully he's funny. And, we're also going to have someone to talk about have a little skit. So we're going to do a small skit in which folks discuss interpersonal violence as well. So those are just some of the housekeeping points which I was told to discuss. But today, I just wanted to talk about what this means to me, right? So everybody always asks, you know, why did you do this? Beyond Rosa and Earl being great friends and mentors, as a person of color, what's been going on today is just, it's absolutely absurd. And so obviously there's legal ramifications, but I'm not talking about those at all. I'm talking about more of the social implications that lend way to itself. And we all know the negative statistics around people of color, Latinos, and black men, and the negative odds that they face in our society. And I'm thankful just alone to be standing on this stage. What I've been doing along my journey is trying to help kids who've been marginalized and vulnerable populations have the opportunities and chances that they need. In Europe, they call it equality of chances, but I'm not going to say equality is what we're looking for here. I would say equity is more or less what we're looking for. So Aristotle, to paraphrase him, once said, to make two things that are unequal equal is unjust. And in my opinion, that is true. So I'm not sitting here, I'm not white. My dad is white, but I look black. Many people here are of color, and so I shouldn't be told to be said that I'm white or have the same privileges that that person necessarily has. But what would be nice is to have those folks reach down and help us. So black folks and Latinos have been a marginalized population. And so what it takes to get us going and to get us up and running, or even just to have, again, equality of chances and equity, is to have a conversation where it's, you know, we face these issues, but how are we going to achieve? How are we going to form a community around each other to become better? And so that's what today is all about, is how to raise awareness around the issue, but to leave here with a charge. And that charge is to become part of the Good Man Gang. To join this movement, this is our first kickoff event, and we just want to say, join this movement, let's get started, let's form a coalition, let's start talking about these things. Instead of having the gripe sessions, I remember I was at the White House, I worked at the White House, and one of the events, we had a qualm session with, at the White House, and we talked about some of the disparities case, and no one left that meeting saying, what are we going to do next? And so the point of this is to say, here's some of the disparities, here's what we're going to do next. Join us in our commitment to bring awareness to this issue and to form a community that could support one another in whatever endeavor we do to ensure that black men and Latino men and people of color have equal chances in this country. So I'm going to move on to my next duty, and that's for me to turn down the lights.
You're gonna meet you again, man. You're not. I'm gonna make sure of that. champion once again, as always.
Did you ever play fair? You cheated back then.
It's not cheating if you win. I passed the ping pong first, so I'm the winner.
This box is pretty heavy. Slow me down.
Excuses. You're gonna wrap that up, right?
What's the plan, Mark?
Seriously? You have to wrap that up.
Why?
Because girls love that.
Well, they don't.
Ribbons, the paper, yes they do. You can never do too much when it comes to girls.
Whatever, man. I'm trying to find stuff around my mom. Jerome.
Remember, you grew after all this work.
Yeah, man, I hope so.
You got this.
You know, what time I'm gonna get there? I was thinking about meeting up maybe around 8. That's good for you?
7 sounds good. If that's enough time for the lover boy.
It's more than enough time for the lover.
Alright, I'll see you soon then.
Yeah? Where did you stop, asshole? What's your name? Answer his question, dude. Answer his question. What do you got in your pocket? You live on the box? You live on the box? I'm asking you a question. Yes, I do. What's in the box? No, say the box. What's in the box? Same box. No. Give him the box. You fucking break your fucking arm now? Is that what did I do? Well, answer the freaking questions, asshole. Just do as you're told. He's just a kid. Let's go. Wrong block. Sorry, here's your box. Here's your box. Good catch, Dick. Why?
How you dress and act impacts how they treat you. Please judge you before you can do anything. How can they not listen to me? I grew up here too. If one officer does bad, that's just one. It's not like they all are. When we judge, we don't have the power to end life and put people in jail. But when they judge, they hurt us and our community. songs targeting the police changes people's perspective, sets them up. If we try to end the cycle of hate and try to understand the situation the cops are put in, maybe things will change.
Good afternoon. My name is Keith Baskell. With my man John Decourge. We took actually Omo did focus groups, and so these are community voices. These are the voices of the kids in the community. So I thought it was important that we hear exactly what some of you guys are thinking about. And so later on, we will be doing another scenario and have some more discussions. But I've been doing youth work in Boston and Cambridge for the last 15 years. In the process of, I run a leadership and training program over at Shady Hill, but I'm in the process of expanding that and be able to go into Boston and do some more work, focus work with males. So I just want to say that very quickly.
But again, I keep talking about Rosa, and Earl keeps talking about how she's amazing. Again, she's amazing. And so I want to introduce her. Rosa is the director of the Latino Student Center at Northeastern University. Previously, she worked at City Year. She has a master's degree, power to the woman in the room. And I just want to introduce her. She has a really big heart, and she's an amazing woman. So mic off to Rosa.
So I'm going to be moderating sort of the conversation that's going to happen shortly, but I wanted to pull up, this is Adepera Aduye. She was actually the filmmaker and the writer for the short 4-minute film that you saw. This is a photo of her in 12 Years a Slave. And so we are so honored and privileged to have shown this piece that hasn't been seen very much. She was supposed to be here with us today, but she's shooting a film in New Orleans. Yeah, us, New Orleans, I don't know. I think right. And so this actually, I did want to mention that it also was a real life experience that her brother had. And so she made it into a story to share about stop and frisk. So now I just want to invite the panelists or the folks that are going to help me facilitate this conversation. Ola Moses, Sanford, and Ryan, and Monalisa. So why did we decide to sort of format this the way that we have? You know, dialogue is really about setting a stage in a space for people to feel comfortable to talk. There's potential for problem solving, but it's not about analyzing or judging the other person who's speaking, but to try to put yourself in a space where we can understand one another, the voices that are being heard can be heard. It's a forum to build community amongst the people in the room and to be vulnerable. So these are sort of the guidelines and agreements that I would like to sort of set in place, or we would like to set in place as we undertake this very sensitive conversation, as we encourage you to participate, right? Because we can't have a conversation. We're not a panel of experts. We're just sort of regular people who are concerned about what's happening in our communities, who are concerned about the young men who we are seeing, in some cases, killed, in some cases, frisked for whatever reason. We understand that when I was younger, my brother and I were in a car, and he's a dark-skinned Puerto Rican, and I'm clearly not, so I understand my white skin privilege. we were speeding and we got pulled over. He was asked to get out of the car and he was put on the hood. And I was gently removed from my side and I was asked if I was there willingly and if I was okay. And I said, what do you mean? That's my brother. Like, that's my brother, my real brother, my blood brother, have the same mom, the same dad. And so understanding that, bringing that experience into planning this with my awesome leadership team in the Good Man Gang, knowing that color precedes you and we start sort of at a disadvantage sometimes when you're interacting with people. This sort of sets the stage for us to express ourselves and to just really be real within a parameter where folks can feel comfortable sharing, right? So I'm putting these up so that we can all agree that as we take part in this conversation, that this is how we will take part in it. So the first one being that we don't all have to speak. We can just be here and observe. When we go into our small groups that will happen later on today, we will allow people to pass for now, or just observe. We will honor confidentiality, both in the small groups, but also here in the room. I mean, it's good to talk about an experience, but not say, oh, I heard so-and-so, and sort of put somebody's experience that they were so vulnerable enough to share within a large group out into the world, right? So do not share what you hear in such a way that speaker could be identified without the speaker's permission. Speak always for yourselves. Do not speak for others, nor ask anyone to speak for anyone other than themselves. Express your difference or our different viewpoints in a thoughtful and respectful manner. Listen with resilience. So hang in there when things get tough to hear. Understand that somebody is really coming from their own place and their own experience. Share the airtime, so make space for other people to contribute. Sometimes I know when I'm passionate about something, I want the mic at all times, and I will talk and talk and talk until somebody tells me to be quiet. So just be mindful. Do not interrupt somebody except to indicate what we cannot hear, that we cannot hear a speaker. I will interrupt you if you're going too long in what you're saying. Can we all agree on those as we start? Yes.
Say aye.
Aye. Excellent. Any other agreements that anybody would like to sort of put out there that are not up here that would make you a little bit more comfortable in sharing? Okay. Pictures, who you've met, that would be great. Okay, moving on. So I'm gonna be quiet now so I can go on. And start with Omo and folks getting
So,
yeah,
can you all hear me?
yourselves.
Okay. I'm Omo Moses. I grew up in Cambridge in the port. I went to Cambridge Latin, graduated in 1990. Was the point guard on the state championship basketball team. Played with Earl. We only won maybe 10 games when Earl played. Happy to be here. I'm founder of an organization called the Young People's Project, which I'm now on the board of, and am part of the Good Man Gang, and just happy to see all y'all here.
My name is Monalisa Smith, and I am the founder of an organization called Mothers for Justice and Equality, and the organization was started by women who had lost children to violence. Primarily sons. We lost our sons. Some were 13, some were younger, as 9. And our focus is to build change makers in mothers so that we can take our grief and channel it into action and begin to change systems that are hindering us from our children living productive lives.
My name is Sanford, and I'm in my second year at Harvard Law School. I'm originally from Prince George's County, Maryland, which is a suburb of DC. I went to Howard University for undergraduate education, and there I studied history and community development. Since I've been in law school, I've been doing a lot of organizing around foreclosure and anti-displacement and anti-gentrification, and recently I've been organizing around police brutality and police militarization at the Harvard Law School campus.
My name is Brian Kaur. And I work for the City of Cambridge. I'm the director of our Peace Commission. I'm also in charge of our civilian oversight of the police from the staff side. We have a police review and advisory board with 5 members of the Cambridge public who review complaints, work with the police department to investigate them, and then make recommendations to the city manager and the police about how to correct those situations. I've been in Cambridge for a while, but I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, graduated from high school in 1982, and I spent some time as well, a number of years on the board of the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute over in Boston. And that's an organization that works with both families who have lost a child to homicide and those who have lost a child because that child committed the homicide, and works for reconciliation and peace education in and around Boston and actually spreading around the country. And so I'm here with all those hats on today.
So this is the participatory part, right? We want you to be active participants and active listeners. But I will start with sort of your reactions to both the short film that we saw, as well as the scenario that Keith put together.
The reaction to the short scenario was emotional, and I felt this sense of anger and it hurt because it was real, and it happens to my nephews, it happens to my son, it happens to the young people who come through our doors every day, and it happened to our sons that have lost their life to violence. So it was a very emotional piece because I saw my son and that young man, and I felt hopeless because I didn't know, how to help him. And I realized that my son is growing to be a man, and he's trying to, man up and not come and run and tell me that, I was bullied on the street, by police, or, he's trying to manage his feelings so that he protects me. But in all of that, he's being bullied on various different sides. He has to fear his life from, people who look like him, who sound like him, and he has to fear for his life from just walking, down the street and doing nothing. So as a mother raising a black boy, I felt really hurt and a sense of hopelessness.
Yeah, for me, I actually left the room with my son because I didn't want him to see it. So I've seen it before, but that scene where the police come is familiar, and I think it's something that we've grown up with, that I've grown up with, and I don't want him to internalize that someone else has power over him. And so I think those images represent and reflect that. And I think the challenge for me is, as he's growing up, how do I help him understand who he is and who he can be, given that this is kind of the world that we live in, and also understand that there's something that he can do to change this, and that this doesn't have to define him. So, I think one of my biggest takeaways from that experience was that, we should have played the end of the clip, maybe we can play it, but that, we live with that. So, I can talk about all the incidents that have happened to me and how I still remember that and how I still live with that. So the police, whether they were black or white, they walk away from that. So they have that interaction and they're going to walk away from that. And that's not going to be internalized in who they are and, in the story of themselves and their life. But for that kid, that's part of the story of who he is and the story of his life. And for all of us, we want to be able to tell our stories without that being something that defines us.
I thought that was really a powerful part of his sort of the police walks away and they're sort of left there with this, what just happened, with this sort of fear or whatever is running through them. And you're right, it becomes part of their story. And those are the parts that we don't think about when we just see these things on television. It's the effect of the things that, in terms of processing.
What was the name of that clip?
It was called Breaking In.
But what we didn't see, when we cut off, was probably the best part of this whole thing, is he threw his, whatever he got, his girlfriend, he threw it in the trash. And he walked away. But then he came back and took it out the trash and picked it up. And to me, it showed him saying, I'm not gonna let you beat me. I'm not gonna let this situation take me. So that, whatever he had was glass, and we all know it was shattered. But for him, it was, I'm getting this, you're not gonna take this away from me. And it wasn't about what he got his girlfriend anymore. It was about what he thought the police took from him. And he wasn't about to lose it. So I'm sorry that you all didn't get to see it, and maybe you should be able to see that part, but that piece right there was so big with me. And it stuck with me because in so many ways, it meant a lot to how I feel about certain situations and just not giving up. In any situation, it's not always gonna work your way, but you can't give up. And that's what I took away. So hopefully we'll be able to look at that.
It was interesting that you spoke about not letting your son internalize some having power over you. Because when I watched that clip, I thought about the first time I was stopped and frisked as a teenager, and I was a hot-headed, very cocky teenager, you know, with a loud mouth. And I just remember, that was like probably the first time I felt like someone had power over me, like pure power over me. And I just shut down. And I just think about a lot of those times when I had those type of interactions, I just shut down. And that power dynamic is really, it's just hard for me to articulate. I know I don't like that feeling. And as I get older, you know, you understand it more. But I just remember the first time just how powerless I felt as a teenager when I felt I was on top of the world.
I guess let me talk a little bit about both the clip and the scenario, because I think as black men go, I've been relatively lucky. I've never really had an encounter with the police more than being pulled over pretty much for no real meaningful reason and let go. You know, I do all the right things, put my hands up there, I'm very polite. Almost always I get thanked for being so nice and cooperative, and that's good, you know. But I remember the first time I was stopped, I was actually moving up here. I was in DC for a little bit. I was moving up here and was coming up with another black guy. We were driving his father's car. His father was a veterinarian. So, you know, they pulled us over on the New Jersey Turnpike. We were about, I think, 500 feet into New Jersey. We had come across the bridge. All the other cars were passing us because I was driving. I knew I didn't want to drive, you know, too fast. And we still got pulled over, pulled out of the car, pockets emptied out, want to go through the trunk, want to do everything. And after about 15 minutes of standing there, they just let us go. Never looked at anything that we pulled out of our pockets. Asked us lots of questions about whose car it was, and that was, you know, that was one of the things I'd always heard about, but never experienced. And like I said, at the same time, I've been pretty lucky. I've never had any really scary situations. The police have been nice to me once they get to know me and they realize I'm very nice, and that's good. But I think about that scenario we saw, and I think that's one of the things that's hard for a lot of us too, is that there's all these different voices. There's the experience that you have every day, which may be fine, and there's the knowledge of how bad it can be. Or there's those really bad experiences that stick with you, no matter how okay it is on a day-to-day basis. And then for some people, it's really in the middle. And that is one of the things that I think is hardest as a man of color to reconcile. How do you deal with that anger from knowing what's happening, whether it happened to you or not, knowing it can happen to you, and then the day-to-day experience you have that may be different. I think that's one of the things I'm always grappling with. How do you communicate that to people? How do you deal with that in your own life? How do you channel that anger into something that's positive and leads you to make the world a better place? It's not always easy.
How about some of the voices in the crowd? Anybody interested in giving their perspective on what they saw on the screen? How that sort of resonated with them?
My question is, so, you know, I'm white,
We love you.
Right, and I'm sorry about everything that happened. But my question is, so when you see the police officers engaging in the behavior in this film, what do you think about is happening in their minds? And is there a way that understanding what's happening in their minds can help us bridge the gaps in the understanding? Because I just get pissed off, and I don't think that I'm solving any problems.
One of the things that we have, we have had the opportunity to, Mothers for Justice and Equality is sensitivity training with the police cadets. And what we do is we really, we train mothers to be able to share, their experience and stories with police before they enter into our communities, and we're working on getting into the more longer-term police officers. And what we learn is what's going through their head is really they've become so desensitized by everything that's happening around them that the young person is really not even humanized to them anymore. That it just becomes that they're looking for, maybe someone who's going to shoot somebody or, a drug dealer or whatever. And they're not seeing this as a person anymore. So one of the things that we are doing is trying to humanize our children, our sons, so that they begin to see them, as human beings, not just a, whatever, right? They see them as a human being so they can start to connect with them emotionally. Some people, have bad intentions, so not 100% are just desensitized or have issues. Some people are just not nice people. But most of the times, because of the escalation of violence, and there's so much of it, that people become dehumanized. We become dehumanized as just everyday citizens. If you begin to really think about, how many times a young person has walked by you, or you might have, walked across the street, or you may have witnessed that type of act. And was it so appalling to you that you walked over and asked, what's going on? So those are the type of things that, we have to begin to think about, is that there is a human, humanity piece in all of this. And whether it's white, black, because it's not just white police officers, it's black police officers as well. And my son has said to me that sometimes the black police officers are worse than the white ones. So it becomes, about humanity, morality, and really beginning to humanize the faces of our children, that these are young lives that are dying, they're being incarcerated, and there's a moral crisis that we're facing.
Hi, how's everyone today? My name is Marquis, and I'm here on behalf of City Council District Jackson and Roxbury and Boston. But I think part of the issue is that young black and Latino men are treated as problems well before they're treated as people. And by them being seen as a problem, there's already the negativity in place. Me personally, I'm raising 2 young black men, 15 and 16. And the issue I face is that they're not gang involved, they're educated, they go to school, they play football, they're really good kids. But they suffer from having to constantly explain that they're not a part of something. So I struggle with having a conversation with my boys as to, Mommy, I'm tired of explaining I'm not in the game, and I'm tired of explaining that I can't help where I live. And both of my boys they've had their lives threatened about 9 times in conjunction with being approached by the police. And I don't have an answer. I can't answer that question. I can chauffeur them everywhere to ensure their safety because walking where we live is unsafe. But to answer the question, how long do I have before my young black men are tired of explaining themselves and they become angry? I think it's really crucial to deal with that.
And I certainly want to hear from the young people as well, and thank you for that, bringing that in. I just recently, with all of this new state of things that are going on, I've had an opportunity to go back and look at Eyes on the Prize. And anybody who has never seen it or who still hasn't, we haven't looked at it recently, go back and look at that and look at Fred Hampton and the situation with Panthers when they were 70 bullets shot, one was not the police. This isn't a new situation. This is, as far as we can go back, we will see this, and if we bring it forward, we can just look at the Twitter comments. We can look at the Facebook comments. And they're just bring out the hoses, bring out the dogs. And that, you know, they know what that means. So in my mind, there is nothing else I can say. There is nothing else for these young people to talk about. The issue is and was white supremacy. Yes. And how many of us have bought into that? And so this isn't really something we're going to figure out today. But the question is white supremacy. How do we get to the root of that and dig it out? And until we do that, we're going to see more Fred Hamptons, and we're going to see more Mike Browns. We're going to see more of this 12-year-old kid in a playground with nobody else around. 2 seconds after the police arrive, he's dead. So there's no behavior that these kids can learn. It's not about how can we change.
Next question has to be 17 and under. 17. All right, there we go. Let's go right there.
All right, so my name's Naya. I'm a freshman at CRLS. And I just want to talk about a story that happened. My best friend got shot twice in the back by a police officer, and now he's paralyzed for life. And when I saw this video, it just reminded me about what happened then and how I felt about police, about all of them, mainly white police. And you know, I hear what you guys are saying about how they might not all be the same, but I feel like it depends on where you've been and what you've seen and what you've gone through. And what I've gone through, I don't trust police. I don't think that they're doing their jobs as to serve and protect, because they're shooting the wrong people. You know, I'm not saying that a certain person should be shot or whatever, but you know, they're making us seem like we're inferior, and you know, like they're supposed to protect us, and they're shooting against us. So that's just what I have to say.
I don't think it's just like all white police officers and stuff, because I had a coach that was a police officer and he's white, and he hasn't shot me yet. But I just feel like racism is never gonna stop. Like it's just always gonna be there. There's always gonna be that like one person like, oh, he's black. Like it's just, I feel like it's never gonna stop. It's just a topic like everyone's gonna talk about forever and ever. It's just, we just have to learn, like kids like us have to learn how to deal with it, how to deal with police officers. The certain ones that like are stopping for sneaking for no reason. Like, I mean, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, like, not all police officers are bad. So I feel you should trust them some, because there are really open more protection by like if someone tries to rob you. Like that's the other form of protection, like without getting in trouble.
Hello, my name is Zaire, and my father always told me, like, when you see a police officer act a certain way, you know, because as a young man of color, and I know I am very light, but I am a young man of color, and you have to act a certain way, because around police officers, they might racially profile you. I'm in the English class, and we were talking about the protest that happened on Monday, was it? Monday, and we were asked to leave school, which we're not supposed to do, and like for leaving school you get too much attention. So the next day in my English class, my teacher asked me why did you leave school. I told him, because I'm a young man of color and I feel it's my obligation to go out there and protest the death of an innocent man. And I just want to know, like, what can we do as a community to stop having to worry about, like, when you see police officers, you have to act a certain way, you know? Like, I just want to know what we can do as a community to stop that. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Hi, I'm Mary. I go to Staten Island too, and I feel like one thing I really just want to say is we shouldn't be compliant to this system. We shouldn't have to change the way we act to this system because we are human beings. We need to be treated like we're human beings because at the end of the day, changing how we act to fit into this society, which is completely white, isn't right. We are people, we should be treated like people. If we act a certain way, that's because that's who we are. We shouldn't have to change who we are for the police. They should change how they are to protect us and to stop killing us, to stop frisking us, to stop stopping us, like, because that's not right, so.
Is anybody else want to speak? Over here? Let me see you, please. Come on, if you're going to do it, go on and speak. I want to hear you. Go ahead, say something.
Hi, my name is Rihanna. At first I wasn't planning to speak, but like, I wonder how it feels to be a parent and have to tell your kids, like, I'm sorry, don't act that way when you're in front of a police officer. And I'm just wondering, like, who are they really serving and who are they really protecting?
So this is a comment based off of what Adrian said. I think that like, if you have a negative like point of view, like racism is never going to change. Like, just at this point right now, we've come so far, like, from being enslaved. Like, we've made a lot of progress, and to say that racism will never change, I think that that's just the wrong way of thinking about it. Like, if you have a positive point of view, you will be able to make change, and that's all I have to say.
We got one more.
Okay, one last word from each panelist, sort of, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Good afternoon. My name is Renee, and I'm living with a lot of the folks who are here. And my heart's been heavy this week, just like I'm sure many of your hearts have been heavy. We've experienced trauma, watching the video over and over on TV, and but I have to say, those of you at Cambridge Ridge and Latin that walked out on Monday, power to the people. You are the future. You are going to take us to another level. I've never seen so many young people engaged. You know, you're the apathetic generation, you all don't care. And what we're seeing is a emergence of all of your best selves. And if there's anything we need to do about talking to the principal, about detention or whatever, just put it on speed dial. We will do that because you should not be penalized for doing the right thing. And that was the right thing. The only thing I want to say about this whole day and the interactions between the police and citizens is that we're all afraid. You know, we're not consciously afraid. You know, we wouldn't want to say, I'm scared. But we are. They're afraid of us, and we're afraid of them. And when those two things come together, it's nobody's their best selves because they're afraid. And when you're afraid, you want to protect yourself. They want to protect themselves, and we want to protect ourselves. So just keep in mind what fear does when we interact with the police and when we run into them and when we see them. But I just also want to say this is just a wonderful, opportune time to be able to share some of our thoughts and feelings as we go through this week. And Goodman Gang, keep it up.
I also want to mention that I was just told by a good friend of mine, Richard Hardy over there in the corner, that whoever gets a detention or anything like that, it's not happening.
So in closing, I know there was a couple of things that that came up for some of the students who are here. I don't know if you wanted to address them or just say some point before we move into small group, because Renee, you were a great transition into our small group, so thank you.
I guess we go in reverse order, I guess. So let me say something very practical. I mentioned I'm the executive secretary for the Police Review and Advisory Board. So one of the things, the main thing we do, and I got one of my board members right here, Mr. Kimbrough, is we look at complaints. I'm going to say this very honestly, this is not critical, but I've been in this job for 4 years. I have never gotten a complaint from a young person. I would like to believe that's because in Cambridge, we never have any negative interactions between our young folks and the police department. I would like that to be true. Now, if it's not true, y'all need to come to us. There's a bunch of brochures out here. Mr. Kimbrough, he raised his hand maybe if he's willing. He is on our board. We want to hear about it. Even if it's not a complaint that's going to result in someone getting fired or something, we don't fire people. We have to give that feedback to the police department, to the community, to the city manager, city government. We can't do that. If there are problems with the police, believe me, there are people in the police department that want to know. And as civilians and people in city government, we want to know. But we can't know if no one talks to us. So please, if anything comes up, if you have questions, if you have a concern, if you're not sure, come to us. We're not trying to solicit complaints, but we need to know, because if people don't speak up, nothing changes. And as important as it is what's going on in the streets, and it's very important, and again, I was at that protest, and it was very powerful to see what people did. We also need to hear about the specifics. So it's a plea. If anything is happening, let us know.
As I listen to a lot of people's comments, it reminds me of a personal struggle that I have. So I know we've all heard the chant, like, no justice, no peace, no racist police. But sometimes it's hard for me to chant that, because, I'm an officer whiting with that, who I've worked with a lot. And, organizing with the community, trying to have relations between police officers and then the community about their rights, speaking with young people, I have encountered good police officers, right? So it's how do you critique and despise an institution without having that for every individual officer? Because even though those officers make up the institution, and sometimes they help perpetuate the institution, they're still human beings, and I don't want to color them with the same bias to all of them, as we sometimes feel we're colored with the same bias. And that's an internal struggle that I always have. And I think it's something that we should just speak about. I'm not critiquing either way, but I just want to identify my own internal struggle that I'll share with others.
I celebrate because I think that we all have internal struggles right now. And we struggle with, with injustice and what is injustice. And we struggle with race, because if you look at the faces who are standing up for, for injustice, they're all different colors of people. They're all different ages. So it's not just black people saying that, murder and incarceration of people is wrong. It's not just white people, it's not just Asian people, it's all of us. And so we all are struggling with those things. And as parents, we struggle with how do you tell your children, to conform to systems that are not fair? How do you tell your peers that, don't be afraid when you really are afraid, right? So I think we all are struggling with these internal things, but I think the answer lies within us, that we have to begin to continue to have these type of dialogues, but not just have the conversations. We have to begin to develop solutions out of these conversations. And because we hold the answers to all of them. And we have to look at things that happened before us. There was a time when she was talking about eyes on the prize. There was a whole generation of people that fought a really good fight. And that fight was fought for me. It was fought for me to be able to go to school. It was fought for me not to be able to sit on the back of the bus. It was fought for me to have certain privileges. But I didn't do anything. I never deposited anything in the civil rights struggle. I just reaped the rewards of it. So the generation that came behind me, they had nothing. And all of that injustice fell on them, because I reaped the benefits from those that came before me. I didn't put anything in, and the generation that's behind me is feeling that pain.
Can you all hear me? Yes. Yeah. I don't think this is working. But can I ask anyone from that generation, from the 60s generation, if you are willing to stand up and just acknowledge yourselves? You can do that. I think it's about 50 years between y'all. And a whole lot of history, and I think one of my takeaways is that, this is who America has always been, this is who America is, but America has changed and we have the power to change it. And so the sister that talked about eyes on the prize, there's a generation of folks, some of them are standing, who participated in transforming the country, and there are things that we can learn from them. One of the things is that we need to organize. And so the brother was talking about, I don't want to ask questions, I want to do something. Well, let's organize. We need to organize around something. And so I think the future is bright if we make the connection between this 50 years and who we have standing up there and who we have standing here, so we can learn from what you all experience, and we don't have to repeat all your mistakes, but the work is the same. We need to get in the game, and we need to organize to change this country.
Thank you everyone for your comments and your sharing. Those are very hard things to share. Thank you to all of our panelists. Renee mentioned perspectives and looking through other people's eyes and living through fear and interactions, and that's what we're going to talk about in our small groups. So I'm going to ask the facilitators to come up to the stage so that we can start breaking up our young folks and everybody into your small. We want to continue the conversation. The room's so big that we want to be able to get everybody's thoughts in a smaller sort of environment so that you're more willing to share, and then we're going to have some report outs when you come back. But there'll be a little fun in between because this is really deep and heavy, and we want to be able to enjoy each other's company. So if you can come on stage. School, and some of you do it still. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. Where's your glasses? 9, 10. No, not those. So 10. Here. So those 10, if you can get up and go with Manny.